Beginning, the arena of stars. I never wanted to be a warrior. I was a mechanic from Earth, dragged into the Orion Wars when our ship crash-landed near Zolthia Prime, the heart of the alien empire. The Zalthians didn't kill me. They were too entertained by my defiance. Instead, they threw me into the arena of the eternal stars, where warriors from 100 worlds fought for glory or death. The audience that day was a sea of light and sound, thousands of alien eyes glimmering like distant suns, their voices vibrating through the arena's force-field dome. Above them, in a gilded throne suspended midair, sat Queen Syraxis, the ruler of the Zalthian dominion. She was the most feared being in the galaxy, rumored to have turned entire planets to ash with a single command. Her armor shimmered like liquid obsidian, etched with cosmic veins of gold. Her face was both terrifying and beautiful, perfect symmetry marred only by eyes that burned too bright, like twin supernovas. When she raised her hand, the entire arena fell silent. Today, her voice boomed, amplified by the psychic field, a human fights in our arena. A fragile being of bone and fear. Let the stars witness his end. The crowd roared. I stood in the center of the arena, unarmed, half-starved, my shirt torn and hands blooded. They had given me no weapon. Only the sand beneath my feet. Across from me stood a Dravok gladiator, a beast of muscle and plated hide, standing twice my height. Its claws glinted, its breath steaming in the cold air. I could hear the guards laughing above me. Watch him die fast, this earthborn, one said. Maybe the queen will blink before it's over, another sneered. The gate opened, and the Dravok charged. Middle, the fight that changed everything. Time slowed. Instinct took over. I'd spent my life fixing engines, not fighting monsters, but years of survival since the crash had hardened me. I had studied these aliens. Their strength, their reflexes, their flaws. When the Dravok swung its massive arm, I ducked low, rolled under its shadow, and drove my elbow into the gap under its ribs. It roared, stumbling. The crowd gasped. I grabbed a handful of the coarse sand and flung it into its eyes. The creature staggered, blinded, swinging wildly. I stepped inside its guard, drove my knee into its throat, and slammed my fist into its jaw. The sound echoed like cracking stone. Impossible, one of the guards shouted. The Dravok collapsed to one knee, but it wasn't done. It lunged again, claws out. I caught its arm, twisted, and felt bone snap. I used the broken limb's momentum to swing onto its back, locking my arm around its neck. The crowd began to chant a deep, rhythmic pulse. Human, human, human. For the first time, the queen leaned forward. The Dravok roared one last time before falling face-first into the sand. Silence. Then, thunderous applause. I stood panting, blood dripping from my knuckles. My body screamed in pain, but my eyes rose to meet hers. The queen's expression had changed. Her head tilted slightly, her gaze burning with curiosity instead of contempt. She whispered something, to no one in particular. But the arena's psychic amplifiers carried her words for all to hear. What are you, human? The crowd fell dead silent. Even the guards didn't move. That was the moment everything changed. Middle, the queen's interest. After the fight, I was taken not to the cells, but to the royal chambers. The guards looked uneasy, as if they couldn't comprehend why their queen would want to see me alive. The throne room was enormous, bathed in shifting starlight. Massive crystalline pillars stretched toward a ceiling that resembled a living galaxy. She stood at the center, no armor, only a long robe of dark silk that rippled with faint energy. You are not like the others, she said, her voice quieter now, but sharper. You fight as if death is an inconvenience. Death's been trying to find me for a while, I replied, still catching my breath. Guess I'm just hard to kill. A small smile ghosted across her lips. Bravery or foolishness, it matters little. The stars seem to favor you. She circled me slowly, studying every inch of my battered body. Her eyes glowed brighter as she moved. Your kind burns quickly. Yet you fight with precision. No weapon, no fear. Maybe fear isn't what keeps me alive, I said. Then what does? Something you wouldn't understand, I said quietly. Hope. That word made her pause. Her expression softened almost imperceptibly. Then she dismissed the guards with a wave. Leave us. We were alone. You intrigue me, human, she said, stepping closer. Our empire has crushed thousands of worlds, but none have ever looked upon me without trembling. Yet you do not bow. You didn't kill me, I said. So maybe you're not as heartless as they say. Her eyes flashed. Careful, human. You flirt with insolence. Or truth. A long silence passed between us, electric, tense, strange. Finally, she turned away. Tomorrow, you will fight again. But not for my amusement. Then for what? For understanding. I want to see if your kind spirit is more than legend. Middle, the second trial. The next day, I entered the arena again. But this time, it wasn't to fight a beast. It was the Queen's champion, a Zalthian warlord clad in armor that shimmered like lightning. He wielded a blade of plasma, humming with deadly light. I had no weapon again. The crowd murmured. They knew this was a death sentence. The Queen sat above, expression unreadable. When the signal sounded, the champion lunged. His first strike cut the air inches from my chest. The second burned across my arm. But I was faster this time, every instinct sharpened by survival. I moved inside his range, kicked his knee, and slammed my fist into the weak point under his chin. He roared, striking again. The blade grazed my ribs, but I didn't stop. Pain became fuel. I dodged, spun, and grabbed a fallen shard of the arena's broken shield, a jagged piece of crystal, and used it like a knife. 1 strike. 2. 3. The champion fell. Silence again. I dropped to one knee, panting, staring up at the Queen. Her eyes were wide, not in shock, but in awe. Impossible, whispered one of her advisors. No human could. Enough, she said sharply. Then her gaze softened as she looked down at me. Rise, human. When I did, she spoke words that no one in the galaxy ever expected to hear. No longer a prisoner. From this moment, you fight for me. Ending the Queen's confession. Weeks passed. I was no longer in chains. The Queen summoned me often to discuss battles, strategy, and sometimes, strange questions about humanity. Tell me, she asked once, what drives your kind to stand against the impossible? Because if we don't, we lose who we are, I said. Another day, she watched me train in the palace courtyard. Her gaze lingered longer than before. Your strength isn't in muscle, she said softly. It's in something unseen. That's the funny thing about humans, I said. You can't measure what we are with science. For a long moment, she just watched me. Then she whispered so quietly I almost didn't hear it. Perhaps. I envy that. Ending the war and the whisper. The Dominion soon faced rebellion from within. Other species, inspired by my defiance, began to rise. The Queen's Council demanded my execution, claiming I corrupted her rule. But instead of obeying them, she stood before her throne and said, if this human's defiance is corruption, then perhaps our empire deserves to fall. That night, chaos erupted. Betrayal tore through her palace.